to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, even more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, in Kansas, in Georgia, in Missouri, in Texas, in Chicago, Illinois, in California, in Arkansas, in New York, Fiji Island, Mexico, Spain, Africa, Zambia, Pakistan, Kenya, to the United Kingdom, to our brethren in Australia, and also to our brethren in Malaysia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings. May the good Lord bless you, my dear brothers and sisters. So this is our special episode number 2 as the special message just 10 days before the great and the last final Day of Atonement in the holy place, which is the blotting out of names. Now, I would like to quote again the statement in 2SR 187 saying, in the sanctuary construction and service is revealed the plan of salvation. And we know that that sanctuary construction and service is pointing to Christ's mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary, by which the plan of redemption began through the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and completed in Christ's mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary. So let's read again the statement in Great Controversy 489. The sanctuary in heaven is the very center of Christ's work in behalf of men. It concerns every soul living upon the earth. It opens to view the plan of redemption, bringing us down to the very close of time and revealing the triumphant issue of the contest between the righteousness and sin. And then it says, the intercession of Christ in man's behalf in the sanctuary above is as essential to the plan of salvation as was his death upon the cross. By his death, he began that work, which after his resurrection, he ascended to complete in heaven. The Great Controversy, page 489. So, from crucifixion to Christ's mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary, the plan of redemption had been carried out by Jesus Christ. And our attention must be focused on the occurrences in the heavenly sanctuary. And the Shepherd's Rod plainly told us in 1TG number 51, page 5 and 6, saying, if the church is not commensurably growing and expanding, then how can she be a living church? And how can she keep up with the signs of the times and with the progress in the sanctuary above? So that reading can be easily discerned that the church recognized by Jesus Christ as His must be the church by which they followed the progress in the sanctuary in heaven, the judicial proceedings that takes place in the heavenly sanctuary. Reading again the statement in tract number 15 on page 13 saying, both seers, that is Daniel and John, distinctly declare that the event which they saw was the judgment. The difference between the two scenes is that Daniel was led to look into the sanctuary while preparations were being made for the judgment to convene, whereas John was led to look into the sanctuary after the judgment had been set up. In fact, John not only saw the judgment in progress, but he saw the whole proceeding from start to finish. So, there are two major prophets in the Bible, one in the Old Testament and one in the New Testament, by which God revealed unto them the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. And that was Daniel and John the Beloved. But the vision that was shown by God to Daniel was directed to the judgment that pertains to the dead. The only portion by which God showed to Daniel concerning the judgment that pertains to the living is only the preparations according to our reading in track 15, page 13. So I would like to read again the statement on track number 15 on page 18. It says, although the proceedings of the first two sessions are somewhat different, they are in all other respects similar. So, the first judicial session and the second judicial session, there are things by which they were similar. But there are things also by which they are different. So, what is the similarity of the first session and the second session? First of all, I would like to remind again that the term session, the proceedings, occurred in the most holy place. So let us read again the statement in 2SR 199. It says, the arrangement and the scene as described by John proves that it is the judgment in session, for it is held in the Holy of Holies. So if the proceedings is held in the Holy of Holies, it is called judicial session. But if the proceedings is held in the holy place, it is called judicial sitting. So let us distinctly separate the judicial sitting and the judicial session. Now let us focus first to the judicial session, by which such occurrence takes place on the most holy place, according to 2SR 199. Here in track number 15 on page 19, it says that the dead are judged in the first session and the living in the second. So that is very plain. The first judicial session is concerning the proceedings that pertains to the dead, whereas the second judicial session is the proceedings that pertains to the living. So, what are the similarity of the judicial session which pertains to the dead, the first judicial session, and the judicial session that pertains to the living, which is the second judicial session? Of course, the similarity would be the bookwork transaction, that the proceedings that takes place in the most holy place are only for blotting out of sins and granting of rewards. So let us read again the statement here on 2SR page 189. So it says here, during Christ's ministration in the holiest of all, which is a throne of judgment, of blotting out sins and granting of rewards. So the proceedings that takes place in the most holy place is blotting out of sins and then granting of rewards. And I would like to repeat again that there are only two ways by which we will obtain eternal life, either by resurrection or either by translation. So there are only two classes of saints, resurrected saints and living saints. So the granting of rewards that takes place in the heavenly sanctuary is inscribing their names in the book of resurrection. And to the saints that will no longer to taste death is to inscribe their names in the book of translation. So that is the first aspect of the judgment. Answerer number 5, page 30. Being only a bookwork, the first aspect of the judgment. So let us focus to the things by which the judicial proceedings in the most holy place that pertains to the dead and the judicial proceedings that pertains to the living. What is the differences? What are those things by which they differ from one to the other? In track number 15, let's read again the statement. It says, track number 15, page 18, the difference are seen in that before the half-hour silence occurs, there is at the throne a sea of glass like unto crystal. So, before the half-hour silence, accordingly, the entire sanctuary were surrounded by the sea of glass, clear as crystal. So that is the description given by the voice of inspiration. That is before the half-hour silence. Then it says, and no one stands on it. Of course, it is figurative, not literal. Since we already explained, brothers and sisters, I would like to illustrate again. And if you have been able to watch our video concerning the 66 books in the heavenly sanctuary, it would help us to comprehend the subject. Now, in early writings, page 42, the Spur Prophecy says that Jesus Christ did not open the veil in the most holy place in October 22, 1844, not until his work in the holy place was finished. So, before October 22, 1844, there was a work of Jesus Christ in the holy place that was finished. And that's why in the old symbolic code, let me read to you the statement here. On one symbolic code, number 16, pages 2 and page 3. One symbolic code, number 16, pages 2 and 3. And it says, Jude 14 and 15 are explained in the Shepherd's Rod, volume 2, pages 162 and 241. However, we may add the perfect fulfillment of the scripture embraces a period of time in which 3 judicial events are to expire. So Jude 14 and 15 projecting 3 judicial events to expire. So Jude 14 and 15, the focal point is the expiration rather than the commencement. And it says, namely, first, the investigative judgment for the dead as he came to his heavenly temple in 1844. So when Jesus Christ entered into the most holy place in October 22, 1844, the investigative judgment for the dead expired or finished. The same with the statement in early writings. So let us read again early writings, page 42, saying, this door was not opened until the mediation of Jesus was finished in the holy place of the sanctuary in 1844. So what mediation of Christ that was finished in 1844? And when such mediation been started, we need to focus first to the commencement of Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place, by which it was finished in October 21, 1844. Then, since it was already finished, then Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place in October 22, 1844. So that is the first expiration according to one symbolic code, number 16, page 2 and 3, that Jude 14 as well as Jude 15. But let's focus first to Jude 14 because Jude 15 is more pertaining on the executive judgment, but Jude 14 is investigative judgment. Now, according to our reading in one symbolic code, number 16, pages 2 and 3, that in October 22, 1844, the investigative judgment for the dead expire. But in the term of early writings, page 42, finish. So, what does it mean by judgment for the dead? The proceedings is in the holy place. Do not forget that. So, in that reading, we can easily understood that the preposition for indicates Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place. But the preposition of the judgment of the dead, that proceedings is in the most holy place. So what had been finished in October 22, 1844? The judgment for the dead. One symbolic code, number 16, page 2. Where is that mediation of Christ that was finished in 1844? Early Writings, page 42, holy place. So the proceedings in the holy place is called the judgment for the dead, brothers and sisters. And the shepherd's rod plainly told us, I would like to read again that statement. It says that three judicial events are to expire. Namely, first, the investigative judgment for the dead, as he came to his heavenly temple in 1844. Second, the investigative judgment for the living that is soon to take place. So, the focal point is the investigative judgment for the living, brothers and sisters. Investigative judgment for the living. And to repeat again, the focal point is the expiration rather than to the commencement. Since the focal point is the expiration. So, of course, brothers and sisters, there must be a clue that we could be able to determine and recognize when would be the expiration of the investigative judgment for the living. Would you think the information will be given by God after the investigative judgment for the living expires? Then for what for? Such information. It is illogical and, brothers and sisters, inconsistent. If God would reveal after the event, then how could we be able to prepare our lives concerning such judicial proceedings? I will not be weary to remind you, brothers and sisters, that the statement in an Adventist Activities Research Committee is very plain to be misunderstood, saying on page 15, an Adventist Activities Research Committee, page 15, and how will he judge the living? So it points out to the living. How will he judge? Meaning, how will our God judge the living without a message declaring that their cases are now to appear before God? So it is in absolute importance that there must be a message to inform the living that their cases are now being weighed in the balances in the heavenly sanctuary. And that is the truth mentioned in 2TG number 11. Let's read 2TG number 11 on page 2TG number 11, page 13. It says, other truths even more important must be introduced for the harvest of the living. And this is the very message that we are introducing every now and then. It is the harvest of the living. I say more important truths because they are concerning the living themselves, concerning those whose own cases are to be weighed in the balances, that is, in the balances in the heavenly sanctuary, those who personally are to be judged either as wheat or as tares, either as good fish or as bad fish. 2TG number 11, page 13. And our attitude towards present truth will identify us who we are. That statement in 2SR 198 saying our attitude towards present truth is what makes the three, brothers and sisters, good or bad. So our attitude towards present truth. And here the admonition given in 1TG number 28, page 12, it says, indeed, the important thing is not how good or how bad we are or have been. 1TG 28, page 12. Indeed, the important thing is not how good or how bad we are or have been, but how susceptible and submissive to present truth we are now while it unfolds. The real burden of our prayer should be that we catch a vision of the truth that makes free, if accepted, as the scroll unrolls. 1TG 28, page 12. Now let us move forward to our investigation, brothers and sisters. What mediation of Christ that took place prior to 1844 in the holy place? And second, when it thus started, Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place. And who are they, the people, the subject of Christ's mediation prior to 1844? Now, I would like to first read the statement on track number 5 Here in track number 5, on page 109, it says, and as the measuring is figurative of the same work, that is, what work? Investigative judgment. And as the measuring is figurative of the same work, then it leads to the conclusion that the temple, the altar, and them that worship therein must figuratively represent the 3 classes to be judged. How many classes to be judged? There are only 3 classes: the temple, the altar, and the worshippers. And then it says, the temple and the altar, inanimate objects, must characterize 2 classes of inanimate saints, the 2 classes of dead saints. An altar, moreover, obviously cannot be installed in a temple before the temple is built. And furthermore, in size, it is comparatively much smaller than a temple. Naturally then, it must symbolize a class of saints which not only comes after those who are characterized by the temple, but which also is proportionately much smaller. Thus the temple, the first and the largest object, must represent the first and largest body of righteous dead, those from Adam's time to the beginning of the judgment in 1844. And then it says, while the altar, a spatial and a smaller object, must represent a spatial and smaller body of righteous dead, the righteous who die from 1844 on and who are to come up in the spatial resurrection of Daniel 12 verse 2, according to earlier writings, page 285. Those who worship therein, being the living saints who are to be measured, they can only be the 144,000, those whom the denomination was since 1844 to gather in for translation. Track number 5, 109 and 110. So the statement is very plain, brothers and sisters. There are 3 classes of saints to be judged. The 2 are inanimate objects, pointing to the saints that will be resurrected. And we know that there are only 6 seals that pertains to the saints that will be resurrected. And the last seal, the 7th seal, is concerned the living saints, the saints that will no longer to taste death. Therefore, the temple must be those who died under the 1st seal, 2nd seal, 3rd seal, 4th seal, and 5th seal. Or in other words, inspiration called it the first 5 seals. For example, here on 2TG number 12, on page 30, it says, the contents of the 7 seals therefore comprehends all mankind and must begin with Adam, the first man on earth. This fact is again particularly noticeable from the fact that the things which the first 5 seals revealed are covered in 1, 2, or 3 verses respectively. So it says, the first 5 seals. Who are they, the first 5 seals? Represents the temple, the first and the largest body of righteous dead. Track number 5, page 109. So, what is the work of Jesus Christ in the holy place prior to 1844? It is blotting the names of all sinners. Here in track number 3, on page 73, it says, the day in which the Lord will blot from His book the names of all sinners, not blotted out, but blot. And we already give the very simple illustration. And it commenced in 1833. For example, this is the first 5 seals. So all the names of the wicked had been blotted by Jesus Christ, subject to be blotted out. Who will blot out the names? The angels. In order for angels not to commit mistakes, Jesus Christ blotted first the names of the wicked to be blotted out. And that work commenced in 1844 onwards. And we know that the blotting out of names occurred in the holy place. We explained several times, brethren, that in the third heaven, so this is the third heaven. In the third heaven, prior to 1844, the sanctuary was divided into two apartments, holy place and most holy place. This is what it means by the statement that in the sanctuary construction and service is revealed the plan of salvation. So before we understand the sanctuary service, we need to understand first the sanctuary construction. The plan of salvation was not revealed through the sanctuary service alone, but also through the sanctuary construction. The plan of redemption was not revealed through the sanctuary construction alone, but as well as the sanctuary service. So the sanctuary construction and service is coupled together, cannot be separated. Both of them revealed the plan of salvation. So, focusing first to the sanctuary construction, the sanctuary construction is divided into two apartments, holy place and most holy place. Now, it is in the most holy place by which the throne of God the Father, the judgment throne, was located. And what is the divine principle concerning such construction in the most holy place? God the Father decreed that there will be no names of the wicked to be brought into His presence. And according to 2SR page 184, it says, the virgins were called to meet Him, and thus by faith go in with Him to appear before the Father, the great judge. The seal is the permit. It says, it places their names in the Lamb's book of life. And thus it grants to them the right to appear before the Father in the judgment, not in person, but in figure. Meaning, their names have been brought into the presence of God the Father. Whose names? The names by which the seal of the living God had been bestowed. And of course, that is promised only to the righteous. And that is why here in 2SR 192 it says, only those whose names are written in the Lamb's book of life are brought into the presence of God in the most holy place. And then it says, the book sealed with 7 seals in the right hand of the great judge must contain the names of those whose sins are to be blotted out. But in 2SR 199, it is even more specific by saying, the book containing the names of all the righteous beginning with Adam and on to the close of provision, the end of the gospel, 7 seals. Now, let us distinctly separate the Lamb's book of life sealed with 7 seals, the book of life with the 7 seals, and the Lamb's book of life not sealed with 7 seals. Now, brothers and sisters, in October 22, 1844, when the veil was lifted, the entire sanctuary became most holy. Now, ponder deeply. Prior to October 22, 1844, all the books were placed in the golden altar. And we know that the golden altar is in the holy place. If all the names or if all the books will remain there until the veil will be lifted, then the entire sanctuary became most holy place. Then how could such divine decree will be carried out that only the names of the righteous can be brought into the presence of God in the most holy place, while in reality, all the books were already in the most holy place? And that is why, prior to October 22, 1844, all the books by which the names of the wicked had been inscribed therein were transferred to the second heaven, and the second heaven served as the holy place. And there are only 2 books remain in the third heaven, which is in the most holy place. The book of Jesus Christ, Lamb's book of life sealed with 7 seals, and the book of life of God the Father, which is sealed with 7 seals. And the 64 books was transferred to the second heaven. So before the books will be opened, the sanctuary must be cleansed first. And that is the special event mentioned in 2TG. In 2TG number 12, brother. So let's read 2TG number 12 on page 24. Chapters 4 and 5, we see contain a scene of a special event which caused the book to be unsealed. So, what is that special event by which that is the reason why the book need to be unsealed or to be broken, or in other words, to be opened? The books cannot be opened not until that special event. And according to track number 5, 102, it says, by that time, it was understood that the statement, the sanctuary shall be cleansed, did not mean that Christ was to cleanse the earth in 1844, but rather that in fulfillment of Daniel 7 verse 9 and 10, he was to cleanse the heavenly sanctuary. This is the very event which opened the seals and sounded the trumpets, and which, as we have seen, John was told would be hereafter. When was that the word hereafter? 2SR 191. It says, therefore, the word hereafter in Revelation chapter 4, verse 1, meaning from the time of the vision, pointing forward to 1844. So what is the special event? Cleansing of the sanctuary. What does it mean by cleansing the sanctuary? All the books by which there are names of the wicked needs to be taken out in the third heaven. Therefore, in October 22, 1844, the sanctuary on the third heaven was cleansed. What portion? Only the holy place. Why is it that it need to be cleansed? Because when the veil will be lifted, the entire sanctuary will become most holy place. Let us read 2SR 215. So let us read the statement. 2SR, page 215. It says, the two apartments were separated by a veil. In the day of atonement, the veil or door of the earthly tabernacle was open and the high priest went in. But let it be remembered that the veil was left open while the high priest officiated. Thus the two apartments became one. So what happened, brothers and sisters, when the veil will be lifted, the two apartments became one. It says, and then it says, for this reason, the congregation were not permitted in the holy place on that day as they were at other times. For the veil being lifted, the holy place also became most holy. So if the holy place will become most holy, therefore before the veil will be lifted, all the books must be taken out first, brought into the second heaven, the sanctuary in the second heaven. The 64 books transferred to the second heaven, the holy place. Then after the cleansing of the heavenly sanctuary in the third heaven, then the Lamb's book of life, sealed with 7 seals, began to be opened. And the opening of that book is the basis of the proceedings that took place in the holy place, whose names to be blotted out. Although we already explained that prior to 1844, all the names to be blotted out were already blotted by Jesus Christ. But although they were already blotted, everybody need to understand the proceedings, why their names need to be blotted out. And the ultimate basis is the seal. And what is the seal? The present truth. Because the saints of God are sealed with present truth. 1SR page 28. According to these scriptures, which are plainly stated, we must conclude that the saints of God are sealed with present truth in all ages. And whatever that present truth is, that is the seal. And in track number 15, page 32, it says, let us read the statement. Track number 15 on page 32. The lamps of fire, being 7 in number, they of course can but represent the ever-living church, Revelation 1 verse 20. Clothed with the light of the whole truth of God, her teaching present truth, to its successive generation since the world began, the truth by which the works of each is searched and judged, each one's righteousness measured. So, the basis of such judicial proceedings is the present truth. The same with the statement in 2SR on page 198. It says, the 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. Revelation 4 verse 5. The lamps of fire, 7 in number, present before the throne, represent completeness of the truth of God. Present truth revealed to every generation since the world began, by which we are judged. Those who are obedient to all the light and truth given them have come up to the requirements. They are sealed and cleared from the condemnation of the law of God. 2SR 198. So the basis, the ultimate basis of such judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary is according to the present truth that had been sent by God in every generation. And there are only represented by 7 generation, complete generation from Adam down to the last generation, by which the last generation is pertaining to the saints that will no longer to taste death, according to Spiritual Gifts, Book 3, page 26. And we know that that is the generation under the 7th seal. In 2SR 202 saying, but the 7th sealing period being the last, it must concern the living. So the first 6 seals, brothers and sisters, is pertaining to the dead. But in Revelation 11, verse 1, the 6 seals are divided into 2 classes, inanimate objects, the temple and the altar. The temple represents those who died under the first 5 seals, and the altar represent the last seal that pertains to the dead, the 6th seal. Those who died from 1844 down to the last saint who will die. They were represented by the altar, according to tract number 5, page 110. But our particular object in view, brothers and sisters, is the first and the last. Or in other words, in October 22, 1844, the sanctuary in the third heaven was cleansed. Therefore, the last and the final day of atonement, the last sanctuary to be cleansed is the holy place, which is the second heaven. And that is our main subject concerning the last and the final day of atonement. Now, I would like to read again, brethren, the statement in 2SR 164. 2SR 164, it says, unless the close of the judgment for the dead and the commencement for the living be made known to us, we would have no present truth, while the judgment for the living is in session. First of all, brothers and sisters, it was already answered in 2SR 198 that the 7 lamps of fire present before the throne represent completeness of the present truth revealed to every generation. So there must be present truth under the 7th seal, which is concerning the judgment that pertains to the living. And the voice of inspiration is plainly telling us here in 2SR 164. Unless, meaning the word unless is the same with the statement except, unless the close of the judgment for the dead will be made known to us. That statement in reality, brethren, is synonymous to declare that the book of Daniel is completely open. It is widely open. Because to understand the book of Daniel is to understand the whole proceedings that pertains to the dead. Because the book of Daniel is pointing to the judgment. Let us read again the statement. In tract number 15 on page 13, both seers distinctly declare that the events which they saw was the judgment. Who are they, the seers mentioned here? Daniel and John. The only difference is that the judgment that was shown to Daniel is the judgment that pertains to the dead. But the judgment that was shown by God to John was the judgment that pertains to the living. But both seers, the vision that they saw was the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Therefore, to understand the book of Daniel is to completely understand the proceedings, the entire proceedings that pertains to the dead. Now, I would like to read again the old symbolic code. 3 symbolic code 8 to 10, page 8. 3 symbolic code 8 to 10, page 8. The book of Daniel and the time of the end. When does the time of the end begin? And when was the book of Daniel opened? Is it wide open? Answer. The angel who instructed Daniel declared that the book would be closed until the time of the end. Therefore, in the time of the end, the book must be opened. The word does not say that the book is open either at the beginning or at the close of the time of the end, all at once or a little at a time, but simply in the period of the time of the end. However, history proves that the prophecies of Daniel were not all revealed at once, but slowly. The fact that we as yet do not understand the whole book proves that some parts of it are yet closed. Also, the fact that a large part of it is now understood makes it evident that we are living in the time of the end. This time must have begun when the book began to be opened, but if we must declare the beginning of that time in more specific terms, it, in a spatial sense, began in the year 1844. The time of the end is the period just before the end of the world. Now, that statement is very plain, brothers and sisters, in 3 symbolic code number 8 to 10, page 8, that according to the voice of inspiration, the prophet himself testified that there are still parts in the book of Daniel by which it was not yet completely understood. Now, brothers and sisters, I would like to use a general term that the vision of Daniel, when it points out to the heavenly sanctuary, that is pertaining to the judicial proceedings that pertains to the dead. But concerning the vision of Daniel, the occurrence on earth is pointing to the exceeding great horn, the work of the exceeding great horn. How does the exceeding great horn successfully trodden underfoot the daily and the sanctuary? According to Daniel 8, verses 11 and verse 12. Although we will have a specific subject concerning the exceeding great horn, our attention is focused to the occurrence in the heavenly sanctuary. First, we need to study the book of Daniel. Why? Because the statement says, unless the close of the judgment for the dead be made known to us, 2 SR 164. That statement can be easily understood that unless the book of Daniel is completely understood, then there is no possibility that we could understand the judgment for the living. Unless the close of the judgment for the dead and the commencement for the living be made known to us, we would have no present truth while the judgment for the living is in session. Now, brothers and sisters, Revelation chapter 10, there are 11 verses. But according to the Shepherd's Rod, the first 2 verses in Revelation 11 is a part of the subject on Revelation chapter 10. Now let us read 2TG, number 14, on page, let us read, page 16. 2TG number 14, page 16. The subject of chapter 10 ends with the second verse of chapter 11. What verse by which the subject of chapter 10 ended? It ended on Revelation 11 verse 2. Therefore, the first 2 verses of chapter 11 is a part of the subject on Revelation chapter 10. What is the subject of Revelation chapter 10? Let us read 2TG. Number 14 and number 15, page 3. 2TG number 15, page 3. The statement says, that which is to be during the sixth trumpet, while probation still lasts. And then it says, the subject of our study is found in Revelation chapters 10 and 11. So there are two chapters mentioned here, chapters 10 and 11. But the statement says, that which is to be during the sixth trumpet, while probation is still lasts. The trumpet study is a very wonderful subject. But, brothers and sisters, if you will not be careful, you will mix up the occurrence that takes place in heaven and the occurrence that takes place on earth. Now, I would like to read to you first, track number 5, on page 34. It says, in the main, however, the trumpets and the seals portray an event which is future from John's time and which takes place in heaven. You see, the main prophetic event concerning the subject 7 trumpets and 7 seals in reality takes place in the heavenly sanctuary. The occurrence on the earthly sanctuary is called kindred events, related events, and contributory. So, related events, contributory, kindred events, related events, contributory events, and consequent to the main prophetic event. What is the main prophetic event? Takes place in the heavenly sanctuary. And because of that, this admonition must be strictly followed. In track number 8, page 5, it says, so correctly to understand this prophetic event in its entirety, we must carefully differentiate the part which takes place in heaven from the part which takes place on earth. How many apartments in the heavenly sanctuary? There are only 2 apartments, holy place and most holy place. But since October 22, 1844, it was divided into 2 places. The holy place is in the second heaven, whereas the most holy place is in the third heaven. So we need to study, brothers and sisters, where is the sounding of the sixth trumpet? Holy place, most holy place. Now let us read again the statement in 2TG. 2TG 15, page 3. That which is to be during the sixth trumpet, while probation is still lasts. And the subject matter is Revelation 10 and 11. But only verses 1 and 2 is a part of the subject on Revelation chapter 10. And I think the answer is even more given on Revelation 11 verse 1 and 2. We already read, right? In 2TG number 14, page 16. That the first 2 verses in Revelation 11 is a part of the subject on Revelation chapter 10. Now, what is the focal point of the subject on Revelation chapter 10? That book recorded in Revelation 10 verse 2. And he had in his hand a little book opened, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth. 2TG number 15, page 3. There is but one book in the Bible that had to be opened, and that is the book of Daniel, Daniel 12, verse 4. So what is the focal point of the subject on Revelation chapter 10? The book of Daniel. How many chapters the book of Daniel? There are 12 chapters. We already read, brethren, that in the days of Betihotep, there are still portions in the book of Daniel by which it was not yet understood. It is still closed according to the testimony of the prophet in 3 Symbolic Code 8-10, page 8. But the vision of John the Beloved is an accomplished fact. It says, and he had in his hand a little book opened. Although, according to 3 Symbolic Code 8-10, page 8, it was gradually opened, or the opening of the book is gradual, step by step. But the particular object in view is to the time when the book is completely open. What is that book? The book of Daniel. To the time when the book of Daniel will be completely understood. What is the book of Daniel? Pointing to the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary that pertains to the dead. Now, I would like to read 2SR, page 9, 2SR. It says, The message in this volume was prophetically timed by the parable of the householder who sent laborers into his vineyard. Remember the statement. Prophetically timed, meaning there is a divinely appointed time. And it says, proving to be the 11th hour call, the last and at the right time. The fact that this wonderful revelation of the scriptures cannot be contradicted proves the message correct and its inspiration true. This prophetic call is based on the prophecies of Daniel. What prophetic call? The 11th hour call. What does it mean by saying this prophetic call is based on the prophecies of Daniel? Meaning, one of the absolute significance that the 11th hour call is in progress is that the entire book of Daniel is completely understood. It is completely opened. Now, for example, here in the Old Symbolic Code, it says 3 Symbolic Code, 5 and 6, page 12. 3 Symbolic Code, 5 and 6, page 12. When we have come to the last hour of the day, from 5 to 6 p.m., we recognize the fact that we are in the end of the day, even though the last minute has not yet come. Likewise, inasmuch as Christ's parable of the vineyard is true to life, then according to physical analogy, we can understand the last hour, the 11th of the symbolical day of present human history to be only the end of the world. What is the end of the world? Let us go back again to the statement 3 Symbolic Code 8 to 10 page 8. 3 Symbolic Code 8 to 10 page 8. It says, the time of the end is the period just before the end of the world. I would like to read again 3 Symbolic Code 8 to 10 page 8. The time of the end is the period just before the end of the world. What is the end of the world? The 11th hour. What is the promise according to the voice of inspiration? That the book of Daniel will be completely understood during the time of the end. When does the time of the end begins? 1844. 3 Symbolic Code 8 to 10 page 8. But the climactic point is the time when the book of Daniel will be completely understood, indicates that the time of the end, which pertains to the dead, is finished. Then the end of the world, which is the 11th hour, is now in progress. What is the absolute sign? The entire book of Daniel is open. The word open meaning understood. According to that reading in 3 Symbolic Code 8 to 10, page 8. And what does it mean that we completely understood the book of Daniel? That is the answer found in 2SR 164. Unless the close of the judgment for the dead be made known to us, we would have no present truth. And the Jefferson says it is prophetically timed, and that is during the 11th hour, which for perfectly corroborating to the statement in White House Recruiter, page 34, saying, with the completed judgment message during the 11th hour. With the completed judgment message during the 11th hour. When does the judgment message will be completed? In the period of the 11th hour. We read several times the statement in White House Recruiter, page 39, saying, but in what way is it to give absolute power and force to them? First, by bringing to light the heretofore unrevealed aspects of the judgment. Bringing to light, that statement, bringing to light, is synonymous to declare all the aspects that pertains to the judgment are completely revealed, completely understood. In the Shepherd's Rod declared in 2SR page 9, it says, let us read again the statement in 2SR page 9 and 10. This prophetic call is based on the prophecies of Daniel and its explanation made clear by the book of Revelation. It says, and the explanation of the book of Daniel is made clear by the book of Revelation. And the absolute promise that was given was 2 TG 12:30. The revelation, therefore, is to be more fully understood during the judgment of the living. Now let us go back to Revelation 11, verse 1 and 2. And I do fully believe that verse 2 is the absolute clue that will completely resolve the entire subject of Revelation 11. Revelation chapter 10, rather. Remember, on Revelation chapter 10, there is a divine pronouncement from verse 5, 6, and 7. Now, I would like to read that statement. Revelation chapter 10, verse 5, 6, and 7. I would like to read 12 symbolic code number 2, pages 3 and page 4. 12 symbolic code number 2, page 3 and page 4. Revelation 10, verse 5, 6, and 7. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven and the things that therein are, and the earth and the things that therein are, and the sea and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer. What does it mean by the statement that there should be time no longer? But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as yet declared to his servants, the prophets. So, the question is, when does the voice of the seventh angel begins to sound? And what does it mean? The mystery of God should be finished. I would like to read first this reading. I think it is written by Wagner. Let's read this statement. Number 19. There is a record there. Number 19 on. It says, I would like to read this statement. That is, if we can gather any idea of what the watchman means, the angel of chapter 10 is the seventh angel. His message is the sum total of the three messages, and the last message of the seventh angel is the third angel's message. The last part of this last message is the promulgation of the doctrine of life and death. You see, brothers and sisters, what is the message of the seventh angel? The sum total. You see, not only total, but the sum total of the three angels' messages. And his message contains life and death. What is the message of the third angel? Let's read again. The great controversy. The great controversy in page 435. Those who had accepted the light concerning the mediation of Christ and the perpetuity of the law of God found that these were the truths presented in Revelation 14. The messages of this chapter constitute a threefold warning, which is to prepare the inhabitants of the earth for the Lord's second coming. The announcement the hour of his judgment is come points to the closing work of Christ's ministration for the salvation of men. It heralds a truth which must be proclaimed until the Savior's intercession shall cease and he shall return to the earth to take his people to himself. The work of judgment which began in 1844 must continue until the cases of all are decided, both of the living and the dead. The great controversy, 435. What is the message of the three angels? It is directly pointing to Christ's mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary. And what is the declaration of the seventh angel? The message that brought by the seventh angel in Revelation 10, verse 7 is the sum total, the summary of the three angels' messages, or in other words, the summary of Christ's mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary. And what is the declaration? I would like to read first here, in Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, page 105 and page 106. And this, as we have already quoted, is itself according as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. It is not alone the prophet of Patmos who declared that in this time, even now in our day, the mystery of God should be finished. What is the mystery of God that need to be finished? One of the verse recorded in the Bible is Romans 16, verse 25. And that verse, it was quoted on Desire of Ages. Desire of Ages on page 22. It says, the plan for our redemption was not an afterthought, a plan formulated after the fall of Adam. It was a revelation of the mystery which had been kept in silence through times eternal. Romans 16, verse 25. It was an unfolding of the principles that from eternal ages had been the foundation of God's throne. What is the mystery of God? It is concerning the plan of redemption. So what is the declaration of the seventh angel in Revelation 10, verse 5, 6, and 7? Now, I would like to read first the statement in 12 Symbolic Code number 2, pages 3 and 4. And to repeat again, the subject concerning the sixth trumpet, not only the sixth trumpet, but all the trumpets. Let us distinctly separate the occurrence that takes place in heaven and the occurrence that takes place on earth. The occurrence that takes place in heaven precedes the occurrence that takes place on earth. And that is the particular object in view, the occurrence that takes place in heaven, as stated in tract number 5, page 34. I would like to read 12 Symbolic Code number 2, page 3 and 4. The angel swore that there should be time no longer. I think I understand how we as Seventh-day Adventists interpret time no longer. But these two verses, when read together, clearly show what kind of time is to be no longer. For it is during the time of the sixth trumpet that the angel said, there shall be time no longer. So the proclamation of the seventh angel is not in the period of the seventh trumpet, but rather in the period of the sixth trumpet. Because Revelation chapter 10 is pointing to the sixth trumpet. Now, I would like to read again the statement. It says, for it is during the time of the sixth trumpet that the angel said, there shall be time no longer. What period of time that the seventh angel declared there shall be time no longer? During the time of the sixth trumpet. But where is the occurrence? Heavenly sanctuary. Now, I would like to read tract number 5, page 78. The sixth trumpet. Revelation 9, verse 13 to Revelation 11, verse 14. Tract number 5, page 78. The sixth trumpet. It says, chapter 9, verses 13 and 14. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Where is the voice came from? Golden altar. Where is the golden altar? Before God the Father. Now this is the statement given. In coming from the golden altar, the command, loose the four angels, shows that the sixth trumpet sounded sometime before the veil to the most holy apartment of the heavenly sanctuary was lifted. Otherwise, the voice would have come from the throne, the most holy place. When the voice will come from the most holy place, whose voice is that? The voice of God the Father. But when the voice came from the golden altar, whose voice is that? The voice of the Son of the living God, Jesus Christ. Now let us distinctly separate the sixth trumpet in the judgment that pertains to the dead and the sixth trumpet in the judgment that pertains to the living. The sounding of the sixth trumpet in the judgment that pertains to the dead commenced in 1833, while Jesus Christ was still in the holy place. Although we will have a separate subject concerning the last three woe trumpets, and we will discuss that subject in details in the subject, the last three woe trumpets. But, brothers and sisters, we need to understand that the book of Revelation is directly applied to the judgment that pertains to the living. That the application made in the judgment that pertains to the dead is only the groundwork, not the particular object in view. For example, I would like to read to you tract number 15 on page 64. It says, after a time, the judicial demonstrations, the voices, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, the thunderings and the lightnings ceased for the space of half an hour, very definitely indicating that the judicial throne of the first session of the judgment adjourns. Then it says, following this, of course, the statement following this, that is after the half-hour silence. The 7 angels are given the 7 trumpets. So the 7 angels did not obtain the 7 trumpets not until after the half-hour silence, according to this reading in tract 15, page 64. But that is pointing to the particular object in view, not to the groundwork. What is the statement in tract number 5? What is tract number 5? Tract number 5 is concerning the subject of the 7 trumpets. And it says, plainly says, in tract number 5, on page 34, fulfilled prophecies are seen therefore to be employed by the scriptures only as groundwork for that prophecy which is yet to be fulfilled. The groundwork is the judgment that pertains to the dead, and the particular object in view is the judgment that pertains to the living. So brothers and sisters, in reality, all subjects are closely related to each other because according to tract number 5, page 36, the Bible as a whole is in perfect harmony. So the pattern, the groundwork, brothers and sisters, is the picture, which is also called the types. In 1 SR 226, it says the types themselves are not the true object, but it pictured out with unmistakable evidence the particular object in view. And the particular object in view is the judgment that pertains to the living. But thank God we have a picture so that we could easily comprehend. Now remember, brothers and sisters, in Desire of Ages, page 77, all the ceremonies of the feast were types of the work of Christ. Now anciently, brothers and sisters, in the Levitical priesthood, before the high priest will enter into the most holy place, there are 10 days Feast of Trumpets in Leviticus 23, sounding of the trumpets to inform everyone. That is why the statement in 2 SR 220, it says, the Israelites will well inform of the event. What event? The Day of Atonement. Because before the Day of Atonement will occur, there is a sounding of trumpets 10 days before the high priest will enter into the most holy place. Why is it that God raised up William Miller in 1833? I would like to read White House Recruiter in page 19. The only revelation of new prophetic truth subsequent to the Reformation is the announcement of the year in which was to begin the work of cleansing the sanctuary, primarily in behalf of the dead, based on Daniel 8:14, but not then fully understood. As its announcement was made by the First-day Adventists, and we know that that is the Millerites movement, it necessarily follows that they were the third group of servants with a new and distinctive message, and as is well known, they started proclaiming it in the year 1833, announcing that the cleansing of the sanctuary was to commence in the year 1844. Thus, in 1833, the clock of parabolic time struck the hour of 6. When does the proclamation of the message of William Miller commence? 1833. And what is that message? The midnight cry. Now, let us read, brethren, 2 SR page 181. 2 SR page 181. It says, the midnight cry was first proclaimed prior to 1844, and the coming of the bridegroom was Christ coming to the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary for the investigative judgment of the saints. The investigation being in 2 sections. First, the judgment for the dead, and the second for the living. The cry must be repeated. Otherwise, we would have no present truth for the time of the judgment of the living, the cry for the living being of a greater importance to the world than the one for the dead. And as the virgins are a figure of the living church, the parable must have a direct application to the church at this present time, the coming of the bridegroom for the judgment of the living. But indirectly, it points back to the commencement of the midnight cry, the first angel's message, the judgment for the dead. The message being of the same event, judgment, both for the living and for the dead, are called the midnight cry. 2SR, page 181. And the only parable by which you can read the midnight cry is Matthew 25, verse 1 to 13. And it is applied to the dead indirectly. Why? Because in Matthew 25, there is no such record that God's people experience disappointment. There was no disappointment in Matthew 25, verse 1 to 13. What is the experience of God's people? Delay. And that is why, in Christ Subject Lesson, page 406, it says, but there is a delay in the parable in Matthew 25. Where is the direct fulfillment of the experience of William Miller? Bitter disappointment, found in Revelation 10, verse 8, verse 9, and verse 10. The illustration, when they ate the book, that is the book of Daniel, sweet as honey in their mouth, but when it comes to their belly, it becomes bitter and pointing to the bitter disappointment. So the experience of William Miller is found in Revelation 10, not in Matthew 25. And that is the reason why the Shepherd's Rod says in 2SR 181 and 182 that it is contrary to the proper application of the parable. So the direct fulfillment must be in the judgment that pertains to the living, that the people of God, they will experience delay. And I can't understand why the Bijan are continually ridiculing us, mocking us because of the delay. While in reality, it is God who intimates the delay. Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, page 192. It says, the Lord intimates delay. Meaning God purposed the delay. And they said, the layman's movement made a false prediction. We did not make any false prediction, brethren. That experience is delay. But God corrected us before the event takes place. Disappointment is pointing to the time when you understand it after the event, but the experience of the layman's movement is opposite. Opposite to the experience of William Miller. Because the experience of William Miller is disappointment. But the experience of the midnight cry in the proper application of the parable, in the perfect fulfillment of the prophecy, they will experience delay. And I would like to read again the statement here on the great controversy, 393. It says, 393. This had a personal experience. The great controversy, 393. This had a personal experience, a faith in God and in His Word, which could not be overthrown by disappointment and delay. Who experienced disappointment? The first application of the midnight cry. The experience of William Miller. Who experienced delay? The perfect fulfillment of the midnight cry. Matthew 25. And that is our experience, by which the Bidian is saying that we made false predictions. And I can't understand why, brothers and sisters, they were closing their eyes to the reality. And that's why sometimes I really feel that statement in 1TG saying spiritual blindness is a cruel thing. It says here in 1TG 32:17, spiritual blindness is a cruel thing. Its victims can hardly be made to see either their sins or the righteousness of God. They misinterpret and misapplied everything that is intended for their own good. Now let us go back again to our subject. First, concerning the midnight cry. What is the message, behold the bridegroom cometh? What is the answer? 2SR 181. The coming of the bridegroom is Christ coming to the most holy place. which is directly applied to the judgment that pertains to the living. But the understanding of the division is that from October 22, 1844, up to this present time, Jesus Christ is always in the most holy place. If that is the case, then why is it that the description of the 144,000, they followed the Lamb whithersoever he goeth? If Jesus Christ is always in the most holy place, the term Lamb can be applied only to the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. Although, brothers and sisters, this reading material, it is the Bayesian movement that had been published this reading material, but I do not understand, brothers and sisters, or I do not know if they were reading this reading material. I would like to read to you in tract number 16, page 33, printed by the so-called Bayesian movement. It says, "This the 144,000 are they which followed the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. They follow him as truth progresses. Hence they followed him as it progresses during his work in the sanctuary for the judgment of the dead, and they follow him on as his ministerial work changes to the judgment of the living. Thus they follow him on in victory to Mount Zion." You see, brothers and sisters, what does it mean by follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth? That is pointing to the judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. In tract number 8, it says, let's read the statement. Tract number 8, page 5 and 6. Because from Revelation chapter 4, chapter 5, and chapter 6, these three chapters, the word Lamb had been mentioned. And then Revelation 14, verse 1. Now, let's read the statement here. In tract number 8, page 5 and 6. The seven lamps, verse 5, in Revelation chapter 4, being part of the sanctuary fixtures, gives conclusive evidence that the heavenly throne scene occurs in the sanctuary, whereas the subsequent Zion scene takes place upon Mount Zion, the king's earthly palace grounds, not upon Mount Moriah, the sanctuary grounds, where it would necessarily have to take place, were it to denote that the event occurs in the sanctuary. These scenes, therefore, are of two different events in two different locations. You see? Two different locations. The sitting of the throne in heaven and the standing of the redeemed with the Lamb on earth, while the activities embraced in the throne scene are still in progress. Moreover, the statement, "I will show thee things which must be hereafter," places the events in the Christian period. And the statement, "stood a lamb as it had been slain, bleeding in the sinner's behalf," places them in provisionary time. Now, in page 7, tract number 8, it says, "And as John saw the 144,000 standing on Mount Zion with the Lamb, after the judgment was set and before it was closed, the event consequently comes neither before nor after the judgment, but during it." Now let us go back again to our main subject at this present time concerning Revelation chapter 10. What is the main subject of Revelation chapter 10? The book of Daniel. And what is the particular object in view? The time when the book of Daniel will be completely open. It was prophetically timed when it will be completely open, during the 11th hour. So one of the absolute significance that the 11th hour is in progress is that the entire book of Daniel is completely understood. And what is the focal point of the book of Daniel? The judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary that pertains to the dead. Who sounded in Revelation 10, verse 5, 6, and 7? The seventh angel. I'm just summarizing because I already read all those passages. It is the seventh angel. When does the seventh angel sounded? During the period of the sixth trumpet. Now, it could not be on the groundwork. Because what is the sixth trumpet? According to tract number 578, the voice cometh from the golden altar. Where is the golden altar? Holy place. What happened to the golden altar in the holy place when the veil was lifted in October 22, 1844? It became pure gold. What is the difference between golden and pure gold? The word golden meaning only the upper part. It was plated. Why is it that we need to understand the sanctuary construction? Because through the sanctuary construction is revealed the plan of redemption, and also through the sanctuary service. But before we could understand the sanctuary service, we need to understand first the sanctuary construction, by which such sanctuary construction, brothers and sisters, changes from time to time, progresses. So what is the focal point of the subject, the sanctuary doctrine? The focal point is the Lamb. Who is the Lamb? Jesus Christ. And who are they, the particular object in view? The 144,000 living saints. They follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth, meaning they have complete understanding of the work of Christ. When Jesus Christ was in the holy place in 1833 to October 21, 1844, Jesus Christ was in the holy place. And that is the sounding of the sixth trumpet in the preliminary application, which applies to the judgment that pertains to the dead, that the sixth trumpet is pointing to the ceremonial system that before the high priest will enter to the most holy place, there must be sounding of trumpets to inform all the Israelites to afflict their souls so that they will not be cut off. But the particular object in view is the judgment that pertains to the living. What is the message of the sounding of the sixth trumpet? It is also called the midnight cry. What is the midnight cry? Behold, the bridegroom cometh. Where? Cometh in the most holy place, indicating that the midnight cry must be sounding at the time when Jesus Christ was still in the holy place, and that is the sixth trumpet cometh from the golden altar, no longer in the third heaven, because the altar in the third heaven is already pure gold. The golden altar is in the holy place, and Jesus Christ was in the holy place since 2011. May 19, 2011, in Bible calendar, that is October 10, 2012. And since the groundwork consists only 10 years, because the Feast of Trumpet, there are 10 days, and in the symbolical prophecy, because the trumpets are symbolical prophecy, track number 5, page 26, 1 day is equivalent to 1 year. Therefore, 10 days must be equivalent to 10 years from 2011 up to 2021. And we are now in the last year. As a matter of fact, we are now in the last 10 days. And this is the commencement of the sounding of the sixth trumpet, 10 days before Jesus Christ will transfer from holy place to the most holy place. Brothers and sisters, behold, the bridegroom cometh to the most holy place. And this message is to prepare everyone to the second invisible coming of Jesus Christ to the most holy place, because October 22, 1844 is the first invisible coming of Jesus Christ. But the focal point is the second invisible coming of Jesus Christ, by which that is in reality the focal point of the vision of Enoch recorded in Jude verse 14. What is Jude verse 14? According to one symbolic code, number 16, pages 1 and 2, pointing to the expiration of the judicial proceedings. There are two. What is the first one? Judgment for the dead. And the second one is judgment for the living. Expiration. When it will expire, then Jesus Christ will enter to the most holy place. The same in October 21, 1844. The judgment for the dead expire. Then Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place. How many days, brothers and sisters, does the Feast of Trumpets will be sounded? 10 days before the Day of Atonement. Because it typifies to the work of Christ in the heavenly sanctuary. That the 10 days equivalent to 10 years. Christ's mediatorial work, The one that was finished, as mentioned in early writings, page 42, commenced in 1833. As stated in White House Recruiter, page 19. Commenced in 1833. Ended in 1843. Then Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place in 1844. The same, 2011, Christ's mediatorial work, the perfect fulfillment of the prophecy, it is about to be finished this year. You will be counting only 10 remaining days. Then Christ's work, Christ's mediatorial work in the holy place will be completely finished. Then Jesus Christ will enter to the most holy place. And we will prove to you with absolute facts that the sixth trump is directly applied in the judgment that pertains to the living. Now, I would like to read to you this reading in 1SR on page 28. It says, we read in Revelation chapter 8 and 9 of the seven angels with the seven trumpets. These seven trumpets indicate the principal political and warlike events which were to transpire during the time of the gospel church. What time? During the time of the gospel church. I think every Shepherd's Rod believer are familiar that the gospel church is in the New Testament period, in the New Testament era. That is called the gospel church or gospel dispensation. So, the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 8 and 9 must be, it will transpire during the time of the gospel church. Then it says, the sealing of the 144,000 belongs to the time of the sixth trumpet. But what sealing mentioned here? Belongs to the time of the sixth trumpet. That is the sealing of the 144,000 in the heavenly sanctuary, not on the earthly sanctuary. And that is the reason why there are many Shepherd's Rod believers rejected the new codes, because in their limited understanding, they were saying that the new codes contradict the other writings of B.T. Hotep. Although I will no longer deal that issue because we will focus only to the most important part. But the only thing that I could say that, brethren, before everything is too late, before such blotting out of names will occur, it's high time now to repent and confess that we made such mistake, declaring that the new codes are not a part of the golden bowl. You will be held responsible with Revelation 22, verse 18 and 19. You are subtracting the works of inspiration because the new codes were written by B.T. Hotep. And the only reason by which they will not accept the new codes because according to their analysis, it was not published by B.T. Hotep. And they said, although it was written by the prophet, so they acknowledged that the new codes were written by B.T. Hotep. But the only objection was, it was not published by B.T. Hotep. And with such declaration, we are throwing out the whole Bible. Because not even one of the writers of the Bible, they are the one who published their own writings. From Genesis to Revelation, the Bible were published after all the writers of the Bible were already dead. And as a matter of fact, the one who published the Bible, brothers and sisters, are not Sabbath keepers. But why is it that we believe the Bible? It was not published by the writers. And we will show to you that to say that the Word of God had been contaminated is an insult to God the Father, insult to the Son of the living God. It seems that they have no power to protect their own words. Can you imagine? For thousands of years after the Bible were written and it was published miraculously, brothers and sisters, that we of ourselves, we did not know who are they who published the Bible. But still, we fully believe that the Bible remained uncontaminated, never been contaminated. Why? Because there is a divine decree that no one can touch the Word of God. Look at the writings of Sister White. Why is it that we believe manuscript release? Testimonies to ministers. I think more than 46 writings of Sister White, it was published after Ellen G. White died. But B.T. Hotep using Testimonies to Ministers. Testimonies to Ministers, I think it was published 1919 or 1921. And at that time, Ellen G. White were already dead. There are many writings of Sister White that had been published after Ellen G. White died. The same with the Bible. Now, brothers and sisters, to repeat again, the statement in 1SR, and we'll continue in our next episode. It says, the sealing of the 144,000 belongs to the time of the sixth trumpet. So the sealing of the 144,000 mentioned here, brothers and sisters, is pointing to the sealing of God's people in the heavenly sanctuary. And since it belongs to the sixth trumpet, then this sealing must be the sealing of God's people in the heavenly sanctuary, in the holy place. Because the sixth trumpet in the heavenly sanctuary points to the holy place. The voice cometh from the golden altar. Whose voice? The voice of Jesus Christ. Where is the golden altar? Holy place. In October 22, 1844, where is the voice cometh? From the most holy place. Whose voice? The voice of God the Father. According to track number 5, page 78. So we need to understand the sanctuary construction and service. Now, let us read again the statement on consecrated way to Christian perfection. Page 105 and page 106. It says, and this, as we have already quoted, is itself according as yet declared to his servants the prophets. It is not alone the prophet of Patmos who declared that in this time, even now in our day, the mystery of God should be finished. What is the mystery of God? The gospel work, the plan of redemption. But the statement, the mystery of God should be finished, can only be understood. The plan of redemption must be completely understood. What is the statement in 2SR 187? In the sanctuary construction and service is revealed the plan of salvation. 1TG number 10, page 18, the Bible contains the complete formula of the plan of salvation. 2SR page 9, it says, when that book is understood, the Bible is understood. That is the book of Revelation. Track number 15, page 13. In fact, John not only saw the judgment in progress, but he saw the whole proceeding from start to finish. Therefore, the book of Revelation is a revelation of the entire judicial proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary. And the promise was, the revelation, therefore, is to be more fully understood during the judgment of the living. 2TG 12:30. But when it will be completely understood, illustrated that the seventh angel sounded in the period of the sixth trumpet. 12 Symbolic Code, number 2, page 3. What does it mean? It means to say that the declaration given in the heavenly sanctuary that there must be a people by which the entire formula of the plan of redemption, the entire proceedings of the heavenly sanctuary from start to finish will be completely unfolded, will be completely understood while Jesus Christ was still in the holy place, because the sixth trumpet, the voice cometh from the golden altar, and that voice is the voice of Jesus Christ, and the golden altar is located in the holy place. When Jesus Christ will enter to the most holy place, the voice cometh from the throne of God the Father, brothers and sisters. And it is a divine declaration. Now, I would like to continue the statement. Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, page 105, 106. For when the angel of God made this proclamation in the vision of the prophet of Patmos, he had already and long before declared the same thing to his servants, the prophets. And this proclamation on Patmos was only the declaration of the angel, that which God hath long before declared to his servants, the prophets, should now surely be accomplished, and that with no more delay. What do you understand by saying no more delay? Indicates that they experienced delay. But when the seventh angel begins to sound, it is a declaration. No more delay. The full proclamation of the angel is this: and the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever and ever, who created heaven, and the things that therein are, and the things that therein are, and the sea, and the things which are therein, that there should be time no longer, meaning no more delay. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants the prophets. Revelation 10, verse 5, 6, and 7. And the voice of this seventh angel, brothers and sisters, is the message that will be proclaimed 10 days prior to the final day of atonement. The mystery of God should be finished. The plan of redemption must be completely unfolded, must be completely understood. By whom? By the church. And of course, that is the 11th hour church. I would like to read to you, written by Alonzo Jones. I think it is entitled The Spirit of Papacy, number 36. It says, "Yet further, God's purpose concerning man and angels, earth and heaven, is but one purpose. In the offer of salvation to men, and the work of salvation in man, in the gospel, by means of the church on earth." You see, by means of the church on earth. So it is through the church, the same with the statement in 2SR 266. Only by the gospel proclamation, through that spiritual house, can God save His people. 2SR page 266. By the gospel proclamation, through that spiritual house, can God save His people. And what is that spiritual house, brothers and sisters? Let us read 2SR page 261. To John was shown the true spiritual church of God in all ages, in a symbol of a woman. And what is the description of the woman? She was clothed with the sun, and the moon is under her feet. Revelation 12 verse 1. In the primary application, we know that the moon, that is the time of the period before the Bible came. And that is why we need to understand it completely. The parable in Matthew 20. Let us read again the statement. In 2SR 226, it says, the morning call. You can read the entire paragraph, these two paragraphs, but I already explained it in our previous episodes. That Revelation 6 verse 5 and 6 is pertaining to the third seal. Revelation 6 verse 5 and 6, that is pertaining to the third seal. Do not forget that. And the third seal, 2SR 221, commenced from the call of Abraham to the first advent of Jesus Christ. So that is the entire third seal. So if you will notice, the entire third seal is the entire period when the Bible was written, both the Old and the New Testament. That is in the entire period of the third seal, from the call of Abraham up to the second call. Who are they, the second call? The Apostolic Church, which ended in 100 AD. The period of the Ephesus, or the period of the second candlestick in Revelation 11 verse 3, the Apostolic Church, from 27 AD to 100 AD. So the entire period of the third seal, down to the last saint who died under the third seal, which is John the Beloved, 100 AD. Brothers and sisters, that is from the time of the call of Abraham. But here in 2SR, in 226, Revelation 6 verse 6 is pointing to ancient Israel who left Egypt or who departed Egypt. So Revelation 6 verse 5 is pointing to the call of Abraham down to the first Exodus. Or Revelation 6 verse 5 is pointing to the 430 years from the call of Abraham to the time when ancient Israel went out of Egypt in 1491 BC. I think we need to familiarize the third seal. And only Revelation 6 verse 6 that had been mentioned in 2SR 222 that has a close connection with the parable in Matthew 20. According to 2SR 222, by which it says 3 measures of barley and 1 measure of wheat. But in Matthew 20, it is 3 hours interval. So the 3 hours interval has a close connection with the 3 measures of barley. And the 11th hour call has a close connection with the declaration 1 measure of wheat. Because the wheat represents the 144,000, right? In 1 SR 228, it says, the wheat represents the 144,000. So in its direct application, the wheat represents the 144,000. And there are only two kinds of cereals that had been used in the symbolization in Revelation 6 verse 6. And what is the answer given by the shepherd's rod? Why there are only two kinds of cereals? It says, why only two kinds of cereals brought to view? Why not 5? 2SR 234. Why is it that B.T. Hotep says, why not 5? Because the parable in Matthew 20, there are 5 distinct calls. So, I would like to repeat again and again that Matthew 20, Revelation 6 verse 6, as well as Ezekiel chapter 4 has a close connection. But notice, in Ezekiel chapter 4, there are 6 grains. The first grain is wheat, and the second grain is barley. So the first one that had been mentioned is wheat, and then barley. But in Revelation 6 verse 6, the first one that had been mentioned is barley. And then, brothers and sisters, the first one that had been mentioned still wheat. It says, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. So it has a close connection to Ezekiel chapter 4, because the first one that had been mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 4 is wheat, and then the one that mentioned next is barley. The same with Revelation 6 verse 6. It says, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And according to 1 SR 122, let us read again. 1 SR page 122, it says, barley cake. Barley cake, singular form. The Lord told Ezekiel, thou shalt eat it as barley cakes. Ezekiel 4:12. You still remember our subject in 2TG 44, page 44, concerning the sign of God's spiritual premillennial kingdom? Because the Bidian, they focus their attention to the literal, physical, premillennial kingdom. While the shepherd's rod teaches in answerer number 2, page 90, that we cannot be a part of that God, literal, physical, premillennial kingdom unless we will be a part of that God, spiritual, premillennial kingdom. I'm trying to connect one subject to the other. You still remember in track number 3, page 54, saying the seed, the seed sower, the seed, the field, the season of cultivation or the sowing, the growing, and the harvest must be perfectly calculated in order to illustrate the spiritual kingdom. Otherwise, the illustration can only lead into error instead of into truth. I need to remind again, brothers and sisters, that the seed, the focal point is the mustard seed. Because in 2TG 44, page 44, the signs of God's spiritual kingdom given by the shepherd's rod are the parables of Jesus Christ concerning the mustard seed and concerning the woman who hides 3 measures of meal. And that 3 measures of meal is connected to Revelation 6 verse 6, which is the 3 measures of barley, which is closely connected to the 3 hours interval in Matthew 20. And the mustard seed is pointing to the present truth under the 7th seal, by which the mustard seed is illustrated by the pearl of a great price. You still remember the statement in 1TG number 18 on page 20. In the terms of the parables, all this can be summed as follows. Those who successfully aim to be spared as wheat, as good fish, and to put on the wedding garment are those who have found the field of great treasure and the pearl of great price, have done all to purchase them. And then it says, solemn times we have come to. Brother, sister, now is the time to put on the white garment. Now is the time to buy the field with the great treasure and the pearl of great price. Shall you, shall I, is the great question that we must quickly settle without others people's influence or interference. How do you know that that is the field by which the great mustard seed had been planted? Who is the sower? Jesus Christ. What is the seed? The Word of God, the present truth, illustrated by the mustard seed. What is the field? Christ Object Lesson, page 70. The church. What church? That is the 11th hour church, by which the present truth under the seventh seal had been bestowed by God into that church. And how do we recognize that that is the church? It says here in tract number 3, page 88, this fourfold view of the judgment. How many view? 4. This fourfold view of the judgment, the harvest, thus exalts the truth of it as a pearl of great price and reveals that the depths of God's word are unfathomable, its wisdom inscrutable and infinite, without beginning and without end, its span of knowledge, a perpetual fountain of truth, its presence ever abiding, and its beauty ineffable. What is the fourfold view? It was enumerated one by one. Number 1, the judgment is the harvest, the separation of the tares from the wheat, the end of the world. That is the first view. The second view, the judgment, the harvest, embraces 2 phases, 2 periods, the former for the dead and the latter for the living. The third view, the one takes place according to the records in the books in the heavenly sanctuary, whereas the other takes place simultaneously in the church on earth and in the books in heaven. Number 4, the very fact that the subject is now being revealed in its fullness testifies that we are just on the verge of the passing out of the former and into the latter phase and period, and that we are therefore living in the last days of earth's history. But in tract number 3, page 5, it says, the judgment, the harvest, is revealed in the testimony of the prophets, parable, and ceremony. So in page 5, only 3 view, threefold view, through the testimony of the prophets, through the parable of Jesus Christ, and through the ceremonial harvest. What is the last view? The fourth view. When it is revealed in its fullness. Tract number 3, page 88. Now, how could it be? You will say, revealed in its fullness, if the only understanding that we have is that Jesus Christ entered to the most holy place in October 22, 1844. And that is the only understanding that we have. Unless the close of the judgment for the dead and the commencement for the living be made known to us, we would have no present truth, while the judgment for the living is in session. That is very plain. 2SR 164. So, the church, the last church in the New Testament succession, is represented by the woman clothed with the sun. When does the woman clothed with the sun? Let's read 2SR. Page 75. It says, therefore the woman clothed with the sun and travailing with child is the period after Israel went out of Egypt. Why is it that God uses only 2 kinds of cereals? To illustrate the first call and the last call. What is the first call? The woman who left Egypt. The same with the last call. The woman who left Egypt. Israel went out of Egypt. Now let us read again the statement in 2SR 234. Why only 2 kinds of cereals brought to view? Why not 5? The 2 cereals are sufficient to illustrate the thought and to clear the lesson. But the chief reason for only 2 is to draw attention to the first and last calls, because reference is made of but 2 Israels, namely Israel after the flesh, the descendants of Abraham, and Israel after the spirit, the 144,000. But the object of the lesson is for the latter, who are hard at the 11th hour. For the truth of the parable has never been understood by any other company. So brothers and sisters, the voice of inspiration is plainly telling us that only by the gospel proclamation, through that spiritual house, can God save His people. 2SR 266. And how could you ascertain clearly that that is the spiritual house of God? Through the symbol of the woman. 2SR page 261. To John was shown the true spiritual church of God in all ages through the symbol of a woman. 2SR 288. Written words can be misconstrued but symbols cannot, thus making the wise and the simple to immediately distinguish the difference between truth and error. So what is the representation of the moon and the sun? Why is it that the woman is clothed with the sun? What is the sun? The Bible. The spiritual sun is the Bible. And since the woman is clothed with the sun, what is the Bible? Complete formula of the plan of redemption. So that woman must be a church by which the complete plan of redemption was unfolded. In what way does the plan of redemption is revealed? Sanctuary construction and service, 2SR 187. But where is the place when the woman is clothed with the sun? After she went out of Egypt. What is the specific place by which ancient Israel reside in Egypt? Goshen. They live in Goshen, brothers and sisters. And what is antitypical Goshen? I would like to read 1SR page 76. It says, the land of Goshen stand as a symbol of the United States of America. Therefore, it was predicted beforehand that the last church, which is clothed with the sun, could no longer be in the United States of America. Because the woman which is clothed with the sun, she was clothed with the sun after she departed in Egypt. What period of time by which the woman would be in existence? It was illustrated by the two wings of a great eagle, flying eagle. Now let us read 2SR page 196. 2SR page 196, it says, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. 2SR 196, it says, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. He represents the period in the time of the harvest. The last period is symbolized by the flying eagle to denote the church that shall be translated. What is the representation of flying eagle? If you will say flying eagle, of course, it points out that he has already two wings, meaning the eagle is no longer in infancy because she could fly, and it points out to the woman. The woman had given two wings of eagle, by which in 2SR 141, wings of the woman also must denote two great periods of church history. Two periods of church history illustrated by the 3 hours interval. I would like to read 2SR 237. It says, some may question the evidence for allowing 3 hours to each incident from creation to the fall of Adam and again to Enoch and Noah. If God worked on the 3-hour schedule with the crucifixion of Jesus, see chart on page 22, and the same rule was followed in the period called day, then he certainly would not follow another rule in the period called night. The reason he has followed that particular rule is to present to his church the exact time of her history by periods. What is the principal reason why God used 3 hours schedule? To present to the 11th hour church the exact time of her history by periods. I would like to repeat again, brethren, that Matthew 20 can be applied only from 1844 onwards. Why? Because it is attached to Revelation. And the angel declared that the book of Revelation would be hereafter. And according to 2SR 191, the word hereafter points forward to 1844. And concerning 1844, that is the only call by which the shepherd's rod used the word 3 full hours. I would like to read 2SR 233. Mark the following point with care. Mark the following point with care. From the 9th hour in 1844 to the 12th or close of provision, there are only 3 full hours. Only the 9th hour call by which the shepherd's rod used the term 3 full hours. There must be an accurate significance. It says, the number of hours symbolically denote that there is only enough provisionary time from 1844 to the end for one movement. 3 hours. How many hours from one movement? Only 3 full hours. What movement? The 9th hour call. What is the 9th hour call? The altar. The last seal that pertains to the dead. Now, I would like to go back to Matthew 20 verse 8. It says here, Matthew 20 verse 8, so when even was come, the Lord of the vineyard said unto his steward, call the laborers and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. Who is the last call? 11th hour call. Who are they? 144,000 living saints. When God commanded His steward at even, and we know the word even meaning sunset. So if we will dig deeper, brothers and sisters, the even mentioned there is pointing to the close of provision to all the saints under the sixth seal, or in other words, pointing to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary after the judgment that pertains to the dead has closed. Where? In the holy place. That is very plain, brothers and sisters. And it is concerning the 9th hour call. So let us go back again to the reading in 2SR 233. Mark the following point with care. From the 9th hour in 1844 to the 12th or close of provision, there are only 3 full hours. The number of hours symbolically denote that there is only enough provisionary time from 1844 to the end for one movement, 3 hours. The scripture of Revelation 10 verse 6 applies here that there should be time no longer. There are many significance of the statement, there should be time no longer. First, it must be applied. There will be no more day of atonement to follow after this final atonement in March 27, 2021. What is the atonement? Removal. Great controversy 419. God commanded that there must be an atonement in both apartments. Leviticus 16, verse 16 and 19. What is atonement? Track number 3, page 9, removal. In the holy place, removal of the names of the wicked. In the most holy place, removal of the sins of the righteous. Both apartments, there must be removal. Great controversy 419, Leviticus 16, verse 16 and 19. During the conversion of the great multitude, which no man could number, Revelation 7, verse 9, is there any removal? No. That's what it means, that they will no longer be measured according to track number 5, 110, meaning no more to be investigated in the holy place due to the fact that there will be no more any names of the wicked to be inscribed into the Lamb's Book of Life, no more casting out of bad fish. Therefore, no more investigation. Now, I would like to read again. It says, brothers and sisters, the scripture of Revelation 10 verse 6 applies here, that there should be time no longer. Where you could apply Revelation 10 verse 6, when the 9th hour call is finished. What is the 9th hour call? The altar. What is the altar? The sixth seal. What is the sixth seal? The last seal that pertains to the dead. So when the proceedings that pertains to the dead is finished, then there is time no longer. That is the last and the final day of atonement. And the declaration, a divine decree was pronounced that the mystery of God must be finished. Meaning, there must be a church, there must be a group of people by which unto them graciously place in their hands the complete information concerning the plan of redemption that took place in the heavenly sanctuary. And that information must be bestowed by the Spirit of Christ while Christ's mediatorial work are still in the holy place before Jesus Christ will transfer His work from holy place to the most holy place. And there are just 10 remaining days that remains, brothers and sisters. Time is running out. So, hoping that you will abide listening and viewing this program. We'll continue the subject on our next episode. And we will be broadcasting beginning from 12 midnight, brothers and sisters, up to 6 p.m. Although during morning session and evening session, it will be the young people that will be the one who will broadcast the message. But from midnight up to 6 a.m., I will be the one to proclaim the message. Let all of us become co-laborers with Jesus Christ. So thank you very much. We love you, brethren, and hoping that you will abide listening every day, because we will have a special message to proclaim from these 10 remaining days prior to the Day of Atonement on March 27, 2021. Thank you very much. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.